how are you able to pull off the instant replay rule? That was quite something right there last week.
I think, man, to credit all the parties involved, it was it was a process, and I think one of the things that Rich McKay did that was outstanding early in the meeting week, he really just went through the room, in our general session, and that would be the owners, the general managers, the head coaches, along with the competition committee, and really, started with open dialogue before even getting to a proposal. Because, look, there were 4 or 5 different club proposals, and then a couple competition committee meeting proposals, all directed at, how we can be better on game day, and so it really started with an open dialogue amongst the clubs, and then during the lunch hour, putting together maybe what we heard in that meeting as a committee, as a competition committee, and then also with Commissioner Goodell's input. We kind of arrived with something that it took us a little longer than maybe expected, and yet we felt like something that can work with our officials and our league, and that was the neat part about it. Just overall, the positive discussion and back and forth, and I felt everyone in the room was just wanting what was best for our league, and so there weren't any hidden agendas, if you will, or any. It was really how can we improve in this area, and that's the reason I think everyone felt so positive coming out of that meeting.
Well, what put it over the top? Because, Stephen Jones was on this show literally a week after the NFC Championship game and was already talking about how there's unintended consequences and we've got to be careful. John Elway said the same thing. They're on the competition committee in the same meeting rooms as you. You're on that committee. What eventually changed people's mind to get it 31-1?
Well, I think a couple things. First off, one of the proposals, there were 3 of them, if you will, 6, proposal called number 6, then there was 6A and 6B, 3 separate proposals, if you will. And at one point, 6B was gathering some momentum. The only problem with that, inside 2 minutes, it was going to allow the coaches to continue to challenge play. And what we didn't want is every game ending, with a Hail Mary that was getting challenged to see if there was contact. And, we're real mindful of not changing the flow of the game. Our challenges in general have been down. Coaches are challenging less. We have scoring plays now and inside of 2 minutes. And so the numbers suggested that we aren't challenging as much. I don't think this is going to add challenges to our game, because I think as a coach, when a potential DPI or OPI can be challenged, you're gonna want to make sure you hold at least one, towards the end of the game. And I think all of us have become a little bit more judicious or patient, if you will, challenging the 7-yard play maybe, or one in which that you just don't look at it the same way as you might have when the system started. So I think, that session that we had as a group, Tuesday AM, carried a lot of weight, and that was owners, GMs, and coaches. And I think then, at that lunchtime meeting with the committee, the competition committee, I think we felt like we arrived somewhere that would work cleanly. I know that we're not looking at games with constant challenge flags on the field. You're going to have to be fairly certain that your player was either interfered with or not interfered with if a flag was thrown. So I think trying to avoid the big mistake was the goal of the group in there, and I think that's ultimately what won out.
Sean Payton here on the Rich Eisen Show. So what is the criterion coming from the competition committee about what is a buzzable play in the last 2 minutes? Certainly with the point of the Hail Mary that you just made, you could pretty much do that every time.
It's inside 2 minutes, so it's going to replay, and I think replay is going to look just as they currently do. If it is something that replay buzzes down to the head referee, it's going to go to New York. I think it would have to be something that would be clear. I don't think that you're going to see when it's in, again, for the fan, the challenge system and the way we do replay is going to remain the same. So if it's north of 2 minutes in a game, first or second half, it's going to operate with a coach's challenge. If it's inside 2 minutes, it's going to come from our replay upstairs, and I think it's going to be something that they would look at clearly and obviously and say, hey, take a look at this in New York, and then Al back in New York is going to look at it in its entirety and make a decision. So I think two parts to this: the agreement and the vote by our teams and clubs and coming away from Arizona was real positive. The second part of it, though, is the execution of it, and I'm sure that we're going to spend a lot of time on trying to look clearly at ones that we see being overturned or ones that would not be, and I think that's the next part of the challenge.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.